Remember Shannon.
Until I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was disgusted with what I saw. So I said, you got to make a change, man.
It's all about fun, laugh, and get through life. That's what it is.
I find you have everything to gain with Frank, and without him, everything to lose.
Then I'm gonna lay you down, just like a bridge over troubled water.
Hello, and welcome to People Here with Shannon Live. We have a good, exciting show to talk about today. Still talk, going back to school, ready or not. And I want to say hello to my co-host first. Hello, co-host.
Hi.
Tiffany and Allison, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So look, we got a hot, real topic to talk about today with the kids going back to school, ready or not. And we have invited on some special guests to join us. We have invited on Miss Latoya Stately, who's assistant principal at PS 244, and one of the parents, Michelle Blake. She's a parent, so we asked her to join us today to give her reaction to the kids going back to school. So we want to welcome them to the show. So welcome, ladies, to the show.
Hey, ladies.
Hi. How you doing? How's everybody? How you doing?
We're good, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's that time now that they have made the decision to open the schools in September. There's still a lot of controversy about it, but surprisingly, I mean, last week they was protesting about not opening the school, the parents and the teachers, but after they got in the survey, surprisingly, it was a large percentage of the parents of the kids wanting to go back to school, and a large percentage of the teachers have decided to go back to school. So I don't know what happened between last week and this week, but Ms. Taylor, as administrator in the school, how do you feel about the schools reopening in September? Do you think we're ready, or do you think we need a little while longer before we come back to the schools?
I wouldn't say that we are unprepared. I think it's a big process. There are a lot of steps that need to be taken to ensure that all staff and students are safe. So principals, assistant principals, other staff members have been working diligently throughout the summer. So this is a summer unlike other summers where most people have off, but staff is working together to ensure that everyone is safe. So there are numerous steps that have to be put into place, just ensuring that how students are coming into the building, how they leave, how many students are in the classroom on a given day, who's doing remote learning, and temperature checks, isolation rooms, different things like that. So there's so many different intricate parts. So I do think that we are on the road, the right path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Michelle, Ms. Blake, as a parent, how do you feel about going back?
I'm a little nervous, to tell you the truth. It's very nerve-wracking because you watch in the news where these students are returning to school in Georgia, for one, and then, you know, they have caught the virus. They have to lock down the school and they have to be quarantined for 14 days. So as much as I want my kids to go back to school and have some normalcy, it is very nerve-wracking and very scary at the same time. That's how I feel about it at the moment.
But I think, like Ms. Taylor said, I know there's a lot of things that have to be put in place in order for the kids and the teachers to come back to school. But I think it's a beginning, it's a start. And I just feel that we all need to jump in together, the parents, teachers, staff at the school, and work with the principal in getting things set up to make sure that it works for the students. Because I just feel that the students need to get back into the class. I don't have a problem with remote learning, but I just don't think the kids are going to pay as much attention to the remote learning as they would in front of the teacher. So I feel like if everyone would just get on one accord rather than blaming one group against the next group, the teachers union against the chancellor. This is not the time for that. This is a crisis, and we need to come back together. At least just start from someplace and see what happens.
Yeah, well, I feel like, I feel a little nerve-wracking, but I prefer for, my daughter to be back to school, getting the education that she's supposed to get, because it's rough trying to do homeschool and work. I mean, I just have concerns about, can I really trust the Department of Ed and the schools to do what they're supposed to do to provide those safety measures? I mean, when it was not COVID, I have been in the school when it was not clean, or the bathrooms were not clean properly, or did not have soap or toilet paper. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you can't even do it when it's not a pandemic, are you going to be, responsible enough to do so?
I mean, my experience with Tyler School is a little different. Tyler School, my son Tyler, he'll be going into the second grade. His school gave us a survey and asked us what option, hybrid or totally remote. So unfortunately, I am an essential. Unfortunately and fortunately, I'm an essential worker. So I would love for my son to go back to school. However, I would want him to go back to school safely if it's possible. His school opted to do totally remote for all grades 1 through 5. And the only group that will be going back doing hybrid would be the kindergarten class for now. They are going to try it with a small group and see how things go with them. And then slowly, if things go well, phase in the other classes, the other grades. But I think for grades 3 to 5, they'll be totally remote. And I think that was done because they spoke to, their parents, and they did better with the remote learning than the younger children did. So for now, everyone's doing total remote unless they're in kindergarten. So,
I also have. Sorry,
your son is in public school.
He's in charter school.
Oh,
In charter.
So I also had a survey from my child's school as well, my daughter's school, and I opted for remote for her. The only reason I opted for remote for her because she's asthmatic, and I really don't want her to wear that mask all day. And over the summer, actually, even today, I had a phone call from Department of Education, a doctor. They wanted to check on her and see how she's doing with her asthma, if she needed any assistance, if she have all her medication, is anything that they could do, and anything that she needed, and if she's had any flare up or anything. She hasn't had any flare up because I don't expose her in going outside. Once we're outside, she has her mask on. When we're walking, she take it down so she could breathe. When we're in the car, she take it off so she could breathe as well. So, but having it on all day in school, you feel like you can't, it's going to be a problem for me. So I just got an email from her school today that they're going to do all remote until October 16th. So, which is good. She goes to a charter school. So, they do things differently. My son is attending public school. So I get from both perspective and both, to see how they do things differently in charter school as well as public school. So I can speak from both aspects. And I wanted my son to go back to school because he really likes to move a lot, and he likes to associate. He likes, he likes the activities that they have in school. When my daughter will be able to sit more still and more focused, he needs time away from the computer, and just to build back up. It's too much for him after a while, so he needs that movement. But then I started seeing like the breakout in schools when the students have gone back. So I opted for him to get remote. And with DOE, you can put your child back, opt in for remote back in November. So I'm going to do 2 months and see how it works. And then after that, then I have him go back because I really want them to go back to regular activities that the school have. And the kids need the social aspect as well.
Yes.
So, I want him to have friendship. I want him to have that, be able to talk to people, to be able to communicate to people. It's a hard decision for parents. It's so hard for us. It's very hard. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it is a tough decision. I think
Miss Stately, could you explain? I see where when the kids come back, they're going to be in group A, group B. Could you explain how that works? I know it's stated that, say, group A may come 2 days a week, group B the next 2 days a week, and then they're going to rotate, the other day. Could you explain how that's going to work now?
So let's just say, for example, Michelle and I are students. So Michelle may go to school. She may be in group A and I'm in group B. So group A may go to school Monday and Wednesday, and then Monday and Tuesday, and then I may go to school Thursday, Friday, and there's a gap in between. And then it'll change on alternate weeks. So then the following week, group A may go Thursday, Friday, group B may go Monday, Tuesday. So it depends on the principal and what plan. And it also depends on if you're a D75 school, if you're a middle school, high school. The middle school and high school has more alternative week schedules. Like I know high school is doing every 6 days. You come in 3 days every 6 days. So it's a little easier for middle and high school to kind of balance that schedule, where you may have principals kind of opting. I know for us, our school put in for a plan to have group A come in Monday, Tuesday, group B Wednesday, Thursday, and everybody do remote learning on Friday. So one of the big differences that when we saw that video and those pictures of those students in Georgia is that they were in full capacity. So DOE schools will not be at full capacity on any given day. It's about, I believe it's 45 or 40%, 46% capacity. So there are a maximum of 12 people in a classroom, and that is including all adults. So if you're in the self-contained class, you may have 10 students, a para, and a teacher, that's your 12. And that's where those alternate days come in. So you won't have that full capacity where that hallway was jam-packed. One of the procedures, the students are to walk in one singular line. They have to be 6 feet apart from each other. So there are a lot of steps. It is nerve-wracking, absolutely. But there are a lot of steps being put into place to ensure that everyone is safe.
Well, I see that, I know the parents have a concern, the principal, everybody has a concern. And I think the way they're starting off doing it, I think it's okay. And then, just like when you were saying a little bit earlier about the cleanliness and sanitizing of the schools, I think it's going to be much, much better because, first of all, everybody's scared. That's number one. So you're going to see more sanitizing and wiping down the desks and chairs that you've seen before, even with the teachers, because now everybody's in fear of what might happen or anything. And that's like when you go in the store now. I went in BJ's and I went to the bathroom and I couldn't believe the bathroom was so clean. I asked the lady, like, what's happening here? Because the bathroom was so clean and it was never clean like that before. That's because now everybody's clean. So they don't mind washing down and sanitizing everything. And that's why I was saying before, if everybody get on one accord and do what they're supposed to do. So if you need to sanitize the desk or sanitize the kids, that's what you're gonna do to make sure that the kids are safe. That's what we have to do. That's why when I say we all need to come together here and work together. Whatever you see that needs to be done, stop complaining about what somebody didn't do. If the desk need to be cleaned, then get some Clorox wipes and wipe it down or whatever, and make sure it gets done so we have the safety of the staff and the kids coming back. So
the staff is going to be supplied with the wipes to clean down. If a student comes to school and they don't have a mask, they'll be supplied with a mask. So those are things that are now being implemented. And I know some things were different before, right? So we got to look at it as, like you said, there's big differences now in this time, right? So there'll be deep cleaning, especially in the lower grades, like for 3K classrooms, 3K classrooms, the gymnasium where things are more hands-on. And deep cleaning, again, everywhere, like the doorknobs, the seats, the tables, things like that.
Well, ladies, this is all, we're having a good discussion here, but we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we return, we'll talk to Naila Elmore. So we'll be right back.
What can we do to make an impact in our community? We can share our knowledge, be leaders, or simply participate in the 2020 census. The census wants our community to be counted accurately. That count informs decisions that affect funding for hundreds of programs, like Medicare, daycare, and arts education. When the community comes together, anything is possible.
Shape your future. Start here. Learn more at 2020census.gov.
Hey, we're back. Unfortunately, not sure what happened to Naila, if it was a bad connection, but hopefully she can get back on and join us.
Okay. Oh, good. All right, and hope she gets back on because she's a college student. We want to know what happened at the college level. But before we were going to break, we was talking about making sure that of the safety of the school being sanitized and everything. So I think once we get all of that in place and then get back into the flow of things, you know, I just feel strongly that it'll be all right. I mean, we're still worried too, but we won't know until we try. We won't know until we try. So you got to start trying at some point. And like I still keep saying about, you know, we all working together to make sure the parents, you know, rather than complaining parents, then, you know, just come on in and help out as much as you can. You know, if you're not afraid to come into school, you can come into school and help out. Just like we would come to the school before and help out, you know, assist in the school. The parents can do the same thing, you know.
Well, that's if the school allows, because now that change.
You can't come
right.
No.
You can't come to school now.
My school said no. No outside.
My school said I gotta drop my son off at the corner.
Huh?
My school said drop Tyler off at the corner. We'll take him.
Are you letting the parents in if they want to assist?
No. He said no.
Oh, sorry.
No, ma'am.
You want to help? Send prayer. Send prayer.
We're not going to be parent friendly anymore.
Send prayer and wipes.
If there's a meeting or anything like that, it has to be done via telephone or Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So for DOE, every day there will be an allotted time of 20 minutes incorporated into the teacher's schedule where they will have an opportunity to meet with the parents. So normally it would be like on Tuesdays, you would have parent engagement. So there'll be 20 minutes every day during at the end of the day for parents.
Is that in person? Would that be in person?
Absolutely not.
Oh, no. Okay.
A telephone call.
And the other thing, or it can be on Google Meets, things like that, or Zoom, yes.
Okay.
But it's a better way to communicate with parents because their parents had a lot of issues from March to June in regards to remote learning. So now this is a way of parents having a feedback session with the teachers on a more consistent basis.
My question is now, how do they plan on doing the 2 days? Well, for the hybrid, some are doing 2 days home, 2 days in school. But those 2 days that they will be doing home, will that be virtual learning via teaching all the subjects, or would that be uploading work and, you know, the kids, you know, complete work that way? Because I have a problem with that, because I feel like, you know, they're not getting the the benefit of just doing the work. We're as the parent have to work with them. I don't have a problem with that, but it can't be done all day. And you have to teach core subjects as well, like the math and reading and that sort of thing.
And also too, how are you thinking about preparing parents? Because for a lot of parents, it's more so just like looking at work and okay, well, we're just going to copy what they did here. It's going to be a little different now. So, I mean, you have parents who are older parents, and I could tell you from when I used to teach, the math was way different than what I was taught when I went to school. Okay, I'm looking at my son's homework like, when you started learning Mandarin? Oh, this is math. Oh, I don't know.
Listen, I have not been able to help my daughter with her math since she left 6th grade. She's like, you're an educator. I don't know what you're right? So I'm elementary. So it is difficult, right? It is challenging. But again, those are those opportunities that parents can have with the teachers to say, I don't understand. Is there a different way? Can I show them another way? As long as we come to the answer, but just taking that time to have a conversation with the teachers and letting them know that this is not something that I understand. How can we work together to ensure that we're meeting a common goal and making sure that the child is successful? Speaking of your question, Tiffany, about live instruction, it should be live instruction. I can't give you, I can't definitively tell you what that live instruction is going to look like, because there's still a lot to be laid out between UFT, CSA, DOE.
Well, I think the UFT and the UFT and the CSA need to get on board here, because if that remote learning is not going to be where the teachers are teaching each subject, then there's no point in having no remote learning, because if that group is going back to school and going to have all the classes taught to them, then if you a teacher chooses not to go back to school, then you should be on the remote learning teaching each individual class. So in other words, from 8:30 to 9:15, you teaching math, or from 9:30 to whatever you were teaching social studies or whatever. It should be the same thing, because then those kids is also going to be missing out. Because I don't think that
will be taught. Yes, the core subjects will be taught in person and online. But to give you a definitive answer of what that looks like online, that I just at this particular moment can't tell you exactly how that looks. But they will have math, science, social studies, reading in school and out of school.
So as a parent, we all know that you have proactive teachers and you have those that do the minimum, right? So we hope that we have those proactive teachers that really going to go beyond and to make sure your child is understanding and getting the lesson that's being taught. And I know all of us here on this forum right now, we're active parents, and we get involved with what our children or our child have to do. The problem is that sometimes the curriculum that's given to our children, they weren't introduced to it before, because you do have the curriculum that you have to adhere by. So it's something new. You may teach them one way, and then the teacher might expect it a different way, or it's taught a different way. This is all a learning process for us from March. So hopefully the schools will will get it right starting in September. So it's, as I said, this is all different. We're all learning process of parents, all learning process for teachers, administrators, and I appreciate them, what you're doing, because it's not easy for anyone, especially if you're a teacher and you also have your own child or children to worry about as well. But I was fortunate enough to work from home, and my kids, they broke down the first set of March because the work was just thrown at them. It was constantly deadline, constantly due, and it was so hard for them. And me doing my work and also also helping them because they had the deadline before. By the end of the day, they had to finish the work. But then they realized it was getting difficult for parents as well in working from home, and also for the students. So they extended to a day, or they extended it had to be finished by Friday, which was good. They started understanding, because before they were like, you had to finish in an hour, then you had to finish by the end of the day, and then you have all these subjects to finish by the end of the day. So it's a learning process, and I hope the process will be much more smoother come September, because we have looked at what have we learned, what went wrong, what did we do right. So hopefully by September we could say, okay, this is what went right, so this is what we're going to work with. So as a parent, I am concerned too as well. So as you talk about teaching, Tiffany, you were saying as far as that live teaching, we all worried about that as well. We just don't want to be sent a link as a parent and say, okay, they'll just do this work. We want it to actually be taught to our child or our children, and so they could be able to understand it. You can't just expect them to understand it. Like from a charter school's perspective, my daughter, she's in the 7th grade, but she was doing work for high school level. I had to tap into friends and family members who are math, who do math, as Miss Staley, I'm sorry, am I pronouncing it right? Just saying, she was saying also, elementary after the 6th grade, the math gets harder, and it's so hard for me as well. So that's why I always tell my kids, pay attention. That's your only job, is to pay attention, because then I don't know what they're doing, and I don't understand it, because it was taught to me differently when I was younger. Being from the Caribbean islands, it's totally different from how you do it.
Don't even talk about the 6th grade. Don't even talk about it beyond the 6th grade. But before I give my answer to that, I just want to ask, did Ella get back on? Did she get back on?
No, she did not get back on, as far as I know. No.
Anyway, I wanted to say what regarding the math, and then I have another question for you, Miss Staley. Regarding the math, it's not even the upper grade. It's that 1st grade, starting from that 1st grade math, what they call mental math, which is the right name, because it definitely will put you in the institution trying to learn how to solve the problem. So I had to add on extra hair just to help my granddaughter, because I didn't know what the teacher was talking about. I didn't have a clue of what was going on. And so when I asked her to explain it, I had to take a tutorial for me to understand what the math was. And I was so frustrated when I finished with her, I didn't ever want to talk to her again. But nevertheless, Ms. Staley, there's another thing that I wanted to bring up to you that I think is a concern. Now, I understand that when the kids have lunch, they are going to be eating their lunch during the same time that they're working on their subjects or whatever. Now, I don't know who came up with that hot idea, because I feel like if kids are going to be in school most of the day or day, that if they should have a break, even though you're going to stay in the same classroom, if they're going to get 20 minutes or 25 minutes, then they shouldn't be doing no other work. They should be allowed to eat their lunch and take a little break to relax. Because I don't see kids going all day and not having a break in the classroom all day.
So, a couple of things I want to say. So one, it was a learning process for everyone, right? So it was tough. And like you said, people had to learn as they went along, because you have to understand, it's like school ended that Friday, and then that Sunday, it was like, there's no more school. Right. So then staff came back to the building for 3 days and had to come together and say, how are we going to learn how to use Google Classroom? What are we going to use? People have never used it. So it was a lot. And I think that educators really took a big leap of faith on themselves. And it was a bumpy road. So yes, I'm hoping that come September that we have it kind of smoothed out just a little bit of hills, not so much mountains. Right. And the math, the mental math is so difficult. It's a lot of critical thinking, right? So the way we learn is, hey, here's your times table. You go, you multiply, you write them 5 times, and that's it. That's not how it is anymore. So it's all of these different little strategies to incorporate this critical thinking that our students need to have. And I can't really tell you anything else other than that because it will drive you crazy. Yes, it will.
Well, it sure will.
What I'm saying is, I know they want to change it up, and you say it's a new world, it's a new thing, it's to make the kids think with critical thinking. But I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, so where are they gonna use this type of math when they get out there in the real world? Because really, all you were doing is counting your money and stuff and subtracting or whatever. So for me to have to take time out there in the real world to draw a line and put numbers on it, track backwards and all. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it whatsoever. I just feel it's a lot of extra stress on kids that don't need to have to be on it.
It sure is.
You know what? It's extra stress on the teachers as well because they have to sit and learn that curriculum before they can even teach to the kids. And in regards to your question about lunch, yes, it is a working lunch. Lunch will be a grab and go lunch. Breakfast will be a grab and go breakfast. It will be in the classroom. However, there are breaks. There should be breaks implemented throughout the day. So students will have like a little time to stretch, do little movements. I know, for example, there's a program called Nearpod. And on Nearpod, you can incorporate the classroom. On Nearpod, they have movement activities. There's another program, and I just cannot remember what the name of it is. But it does movement. So the students will have an opportunity to get up and move around in the classroom because they have to stay in the room that they're in. The teachers will move, but not the students. And the students are actually in the building a little bit shorter time than they normally were.
Well, the time is going by so fast, and we're going to have to wrap up now. But, we can still continue this discussion in the after show and much, much more.
Well, we want to thank you, Miss Stately, for coming on and talking from
Thank you for having me.
And our parent, Miss Blake, for coming on. And I still say, and we're gonna stay here. That go well when school returns. And I just want us to stop on this against each other. And let's come together with each school, with the principal and AP and staff, work together to make this work. Because I think it can work if we come together and make it work. And parents, you got to be advocate for your children.
Yes, you do.
You can't do everything to the board of ed. You have got to be a partner with the principals and the teachers in the school. And regardless of where you at, remote learning or in the building, you need to be in contact with your child's teacher to make sure that they are getting what they're supposed to be getting, whether they're at home or not. So let me tell you, next year come, if this is gone and your child has fallen behind and hasn't caught up, they're not going to be listening to anything you have to say. When that test come around and your child is not ready, they're not going to be ready. This year you got away because they didn't leave anybody back. But next year and the year it's going to be a different story. So parents, get on board and do what you have to do and save your child. That's all I'm gonna tell you is to save your child and don't let them fall through the cracks. I appreciate the principals, the administrators, the teachers. I think y'all are doing a wonderful job. But like I'm saying, we all still need to come together to save the children. It's about the children. And we got bad people in each career. You got good teachers, you got bad teachers, you got good principals, you got bad principals. So we just need to see who's doing what and who's not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay? So let me thank you again. I did my preaching already to close out. So thank you. And as always, we'll see you next time.
You're welcome. Bye.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. Be ready.
It's me.
Hi, we're back for our after show. Did anybody, Tiffany, have any questions or comments for Ms. Stately?
I do.
I'm gonna.
We're back by the after show. So did anyone have any questions or anything before we let
I
her
have.
go?
So for students who have IEPs, how is the DOE dealing with those children who would necessarily need an additional person or services? How would they try to incorporate the needs of those children into this kind of hybrid learning? If they're in person and not remote. Well, both, I guess.
So I know there are a number of schools where if you have students who have an IEP, they have an option of pretty much kind of being in the school every day over the other students because of the needs that they need. So that's why the DOE gave 5 models to use for programming, but they also allow principals to have exceptions.
Okay.
So I know, for example, one of our exceptions is to have our students, our NEST students, who are our high function autistic students, and our students with IEPs to come in every day to meet those needs that they have.
Okay. And question for students who have parents who are essential workers. Have you guys thought about how you would support the family in this kind of time? If you have, well, I'm an essential worker, so I've been at work. So if you have students who can't do in person or have to do remote, how is the school going about supporting the family?
Supporting them how? Like, give me more detail.
So I know for some schools they did the live classroom sessions. So for me, for instance, I wasn't home when my son was with me. So I wouldn't be home. He had somebody else who was home, but maybe not technologically savvy. Mm-hmm. So the kind of hands-on that person would need to do, getting him logged on, making sure he does this, making sure he takes pictures of his assignments and things of that nature, signing in on Google Meets or Zoom meetings, that was a learning curve for that person. So how, if the parent is unable to teach this person how to do it, is the school giving the family an option to, hey, if you don't know how to do Google Meet, here is a video on YouTube, or here is a PDF with instructions, or, how are they trying to help the family kind of cope with the remote kind of learning? Because Abuela doesn't know how to use Zoom.
So, for example, I know a lot of parents had a difficult time in March, all the way to June. Well, not all the way to June, but in March with Google Meet and Google Classroom. So a lot of teachers, we don't have anything set in stone to say, hey, on this particular day, this is log into this training. No. However, I can speak for my school where teachers were willing to call parents, walk them through it, set up videos that they uploaded onto Google Classroom. This is how you do it. We have a science teacher who was absolutely amazing, Miss Myers, who actually set up our Google Classroom for the whole building. She worked with parents and said, okay, this is because Google Classroom works different on your iPad, your phone, and the computer. So she sat and kind of gave tutorials to parents. So it like Miss Shannon said, it's a building community, right? So you have to ensure that you have this community with your parents and the teachers. You're gonna have teachers that are willing and gonna step up and just take command and say, hey, I see that you're having a hard time. Can I help you in this way? I know they were. I know for a fact we had a first grade teacher kindergarten teacher. Some of the students couldn't log on, but that was okay for her. She actually sat on the phone with them and did a lesson with them on the phone. So it's about building community and working with your parents. So sometimes just not having something set in stone, but just, having the teachers step up because that's what they want to do because they care about the kids.
Yeah.
Well, that
Allison,
can't be across the board. I mean, for all teachers to say, okay, here's the instruction. So everyone is doing the same thing for each grade. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it's not fair that this one teacher is willing to go above and beyond and the other teacher is not. I mean, I feel like all the teachers should be held accountable. You're in the same school, so you should basically have the same instructions, basically.
Um,
well, you know that doesn't happen.
Jumping is a
I mean,
but
so
Allison,
let me say this. So there are teachers who did things and they posted it and then it posted to other people's classrooms, Google Classrooms, right? They shared their videos and then the teacher shared it with other people. Some people are not comfortable being on screen. Even though they're in front of the classroom every day, being on the camera is something completely different for people. Also, you have to understand that because this was a new initiative for the city that just kind of happened out of nowhere, unions.
I know. I hear you saying about unions. I understand it. And it's,
people have to, and at the same time, people are trying to be cautious because you don't know what you're going to see or what you may say or what somebody may interpret you're saying, and then you put yourself in a bind. So it's kind of like it was like a catch-22 with a lot of stuff, and I not completely understand on the parents' part, like you wanted live instruction, and then on the teacher's part, it's like, am I going to be live, and then something happens? So
something happens. When you say something happens, like what could possibly
like a
happen?
cat walking through your keyboard.
Okay, I mean, I've said some. I mean, I've caught saying stuff.
They got
when
kids at home too.
Mute. But
they got kids at home
are they afraid they may get caught yelling at the students like they do in the classroom, real classroom, or something?
Or they get caught yelling at their own kids.
Right, but I'm saying if you're afraid about you might.
But
something,
even
go back to the classroom then.
Even just for the student, right? Like you don't know what people's home lives are. So
right.
It may be something that everything we say things are the norm, right? But there's a norm for everyone, right? So what may be normal for me and my family may not be normal for Allison and her family. So it puts people in this bind when you were kind of live, and there was so much stuff going on, and because New York City was such an epicenter of what was happening, and I can speak from my building where a lot of our students lost family members. So it just put a lot happening, and I think that now that we've had the summer to kind of work out all of the kinks, that I'm hoping that from September things will be a lot better.
I hope so. I mean, I expect
better in the fact that parents feel more satisfied.
Yes, exactly. I'm hoping for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to say before I say what I have to say, but going back as far as the union people and stuff like that, I mean, I still feel that the unions need to get it together and say, okay, my union is for the students. That see, if we focus on what our jobs are and why we are here, then we wouldn't have all these union problems and stuff. Because if you sign up to be a teacher or administrator, you know your job is supposed to be to work, do the best you can for the students. And if that's not what you want to do, then you shouldn't be in that profession or whatever. You're not there just to come and collect the check. You also supposed to be willing to go out of your way to do more than just stand in front of the class and teach the kids. Because if you're a really dedicated teacher like you're supposed to, you will also sometimes become a social worker. Because if you see a kid in the class having problems, sometimes it's coming from their home life. So it don't take that long to find out what's going on with the kids, what's going on at home. See, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that people that's in this profession don't need to be in this profession, because you don't have that kind of patience to deal with a child in your class, and you are just there to collect the check. That's it. This is the wrong profession for you. I'm sorry. It's the wrong profession for you. You shouldn't be in this profession. And I know we all have,
I saw
we all
something
have
disturbing
like that, but like Allison, I spoke to a parent today about what you was talking about, not being able to work the remote system, to get on. Because wife was working, he was home, he didn't know how to do it. Sometimes the child didn't get on, right? So like I said to him, I said, look, when it first happened, no one didn't know what to do. Everybody was crazy, they learning or whatever. But you have had time now to get it together before September. So find someone that knows the computer. I'm sure there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of relatives, there's people that knows the computer. Have
My
them to
relatives
come
live in another country or another state.
Huh?
My sister took my son because she could see the stress. And I was literally at work Monday through Sunday. Yes, some people are able to get it together for September, but you're also saying to folks, well, you need to find somebody. What about single parents? I'm a single parent. My family lives in other states. My sister, who is here, has her own daughter. So does she take on the burden of my son's work and her daughter's work and while she's working at home?
No, but what I'm saying is yours was different because you had to work. So that means you had to get somebody in there to do it. So I'm saying the person that you had to get there to do it had to know how to get him on to get his work done. This is what I'm saying. So I'm saying if the Board of Ed can't have a teacher that can sit there and walk you through it, what I'm saying is we got to learn to help ourselves.
That's right.
This is what I'm trying to say. There's so many people that know computers, and it's very easy for them that can show you how to do it. I mean, I use myself an example. A lot of stuff I didn't know, but I had to ask somebody, walk me through it and show me how to do it. So once you walk me through it, then I can get it. I'm not going to sit there and complain about somebody not walking me through it and my child don't get on. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to find somebody that's going to come and show me how to get a student on to make sure that they get their lessons and stuff.
Well, I think that is the responsibility too of the teacher. I mean, I have to give all praises to the teachers that my daughter had, because there were some parents, essential workers, and they was left home with their grandparents or aunts, uncles. They didn't have a clue about how to do Google Classroom, how to do anything, but they wrote out instructions for them. They would get on Class Dojo, whatever they had to do to help them, and then us as parents work together and would post up certain things and say, oh, this is the directions, this is how you do A, B, and C. So we helped each other, including the teacher. That's why I said I feel like the teachers should be held accountable for a lot of this stuff too, because
I'm not saying a list of instructions. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the teacher should be held accountable. Yes, the teacher should get on and try to walk the parent through. But what I'm saying is, if the teacher got so many students that they got to do, once they walk you through it, you still don't get it. What I'm saying is get somebody else to help you. There's nothing wrong with you reaching out, asking some of your friends to help you. Yes, the teacher's going to walk you through it, but then still you might not remember. Like they could be like me. I might need about 2-3 times for you to tell me how to walk through it or whatever. But I can't keep calling the teacher asking them, so I go get somebody else to help me walk me through it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not leaving the teacher out. I'm just saying we also got to learn how to help ourselves. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying not have the teacher involved, but you can't expect the teacher to do everything. I'm just saying that we can take the initiative to do some things on our own sometimes.
It is true. I'm sorry to cut you, but it was something that that Ms. Staley was talking about, like the live instruction. You don't know what you're going to see. Like my daughter was on a live instruction with her teacher, with her class, and I keep hearing this kid crying in the background, this kid crying. So I went over to her, although she don't like me hanging over her, but I was like, what's going on? And it was another student in her class because she's in 7th grade. And I was a little disturbed to see this child with her 1-year-old sibling on her lap making this noise, and they're trying to learn and trying to interact with the teacher. And I'm like, I don't really like this, because how are you hearing what the teacher is saying if this student is having the sibling in her lap and you're not able to, are you able to hear the teacher? No. So this is taken away from you. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on with the live teacher. You don't know what goes on in other people's household. Because for my kids, I make sure they're in a quiet environment. I make sure they're by themselves. They're able to hear, you're able to see what's going on. But other parents don't have the help, and they have the sibling taking care of another sibling, and which is really not their responsibility at the end of the day, because you are the adult. I understand another sibling helping another sibling out, but as a parent, as Miss Shannon was saying, you have to step into and also assist the teachers, because if you would take away that child out of your other child's lap, the other student would be able to get their instruction, and the teacher would be able to teach the instruction and what's going on for other kids to get it. So you're taking away from the 30 other students in the class on the live instruction. So it's hard on both sides. So I see it on both sides.
It's difficult. It's really difficult. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, look, you're able to provide a quiet corner or a room. What about the parents that live with other people? What about the people who have roommates? What about, everybody's situation is different. Not everybody's able to say, hey, look, go into your room and make sure you close the door. A lot of people don't have that. So it's an interesting situation, this remote learning, and it's bringing to light a lot of home situations that would necessarily take away from the learning experience that students have. And I think that's why, too, a lot of parents really wanted the in-person learning, because being able to juggle at home and at school has been something completely different. Because I will tell you, trying to figure out work and doing schoolwork with my son, it was like some days I would get home like 8-9 o'clock at night, and by the time I get home, I don't want to talk to nobody. Don't talk to me. How about that? Don't talk to me at all. I don't want to look at schoolwork. I don't even want to look at my work. Okay. So being able to juggle work at home, school at home, and all these things at home, and juggle home, is a lot for people, period. Because I remember literally being in a meeting, cooking breakfast. Like, I'm gonna just take my camera off, and I'm trying to take notes and cook breakfast at the same time. I can't say I'm not going to get on this meeting because I need to make these kids breakfast, and I'm not going to say, oh, I can't make you breakfast because I have to get on this meeting. It's a lot. It's a lot. So it's going to be a learning curve. I would have just took my student off the live chat if it wasn't an ability for her to be on there and be actually present in the meeting. I would just, hey, Becky, you got to come off. You just, I need you to do whatever. I would have just took them off and kept everybody with their teacher. And then, we'll talk to the teacher later and figure this out. But
that goes back to what I was saying about what the norm is for everyone, right? Even if everyone did live instruction, you still would have had issues, because if this pandemic didn't teach us anything, it taught us so much about the inequities that are across the city. So you have to think about where you have families who have 5 siblings, 3 siblings, and 1 device. So then now here it is. Well, how do you decide who goes on instruction at this particular time? So I mean, it's just a lot of little things that sometimes we don't think about all the little things. We kind of see like this big picture, but there's so many little intricate parts that have to be thought about. But I agree. You want your child to be successful, and you want them to have the live instruction. And it is demanding. As an administrator, my youngest is in high school, and from me, I was like, oh my God, like I don't know how I would do this if my child was like in elementary school. It's difficult. It's tough. It's very, very challenging for your kids and everything. So I know we're scared about going back to school, but at the same time, I feel like it's important for the students to be back in the building, not just academically, but for that social emotional learning.
Exactly. Yeah, because I am tired of drinking tea and playing with doll babies.
Say that again.
I'm tired.
She's tired of playing with doll babies
and playing with American Doll baby. Look, it's time to go to school.
Listen, I thank God for my sister. I do. She really came through in the clutch because I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
Well, you know, I mean, God forbid, let's hope that the pandemic stays that New York kind of stays with a level that they are, but there were rec centers, and the rec centers are still open now. So if you were an essential worker, your child could have gone to a rec center. I mean, the rec centers are open up until September 9th.
Yeah.
Where your child would be there from 7:30 to 6 o'clock.
Right. But
let me just say this because it's time, to end our after show. But Miss statement, what you were saying is true. And Allison, what I say to you is to see this is a time that I think that shows families, friends, and families. This is the time. If you are my family and you are my friend, it's for us to come together and help each other. Just like your sister stepped in and helped you. Now, if you don't have that kind of family, you have some friends. And we have to learn to reach out and ask people for help. Because if you don't ask for help, no one knows that you need any help. Now, one thing about people, I noticed I know a lot of times we don't like to stick together with each other and doing things. But I have noticed when a crisis happens, we will come together to help each other. So if you ask me for help, then I can give you the help. But if you don't ask me, I don't know that you need
I don't know.
So the parents that need that extra help with their siblings or helping them out with the children or getting on the you got to ask somebody to help you. That's, you know what I'm saying? You have to ask for that help. And I think if we reach out to each other and people be willing to help you, I don't think nobody would really turn you down and say, I'm not going to help you or whatever. Particularly if you're a working parent and they need you to come in and help with the kids. I think people would do that. And I'm going to end on saying that if we truly love each other like we're supposed to, then somebody reach out to you, I think you will accept and help them with whatever they need from you. You might not have no money to give them, but you can have some in-time services that you can give them, help them out with their kids. You might need to take the kids to the school. You might need to help pick them up from the school. If we call ourselves loving each other and we love God, then we got to do what we need to do to help each other. That's what I think. So I think going back to school in September, I think it's going to be okay. I don't think we don't need to worry as much as we are worried. I think what we need to do is just put things in place and we all work together. Whether you got a child in school or not, if you can help that neighbor go get their kid or pick them up or whatever, that's what we need to do. Because administrators cannot do everything by themselves. They can't. We all need to be on this wagon, on this train, and I think it's going to work. So, Ms. Staley, thank you for doing a good job. Thank you, your principal.
Can I just say one last thing? Especially for the parents that don't have the support and single parents, just kind of keep abreast of and listen to the news. I know in around July 16th, de Blasio put out a notice that for those parents who don't have childcare on those remote days, that they are trying to find ways for those students to be at a center so that parents can go to work, but the students are doing their remote learning somewhere. And I know that they're going to call it learning bridges, but everything is kind of rolling out, but just for parents to kind of keep aware and know that the city understands that everybody doesn't always have that support.
Exactly.
To go to work. So just knowing that they're trying to implement something for those days when the students have remote learning.
And if you don't know, and like you said, if you don't know that they are putting this together, then ask another parent.
Right.
Ask another. If something you don't know, then ask another parent, because most likely that parent may know what you don't know, and the parents have to share information with each other on what's going on. Because we got some parents who are on top of everything. So they know what's going on. Yes.
That's true.
And some parents,
That's true.
you know, they don't reach out like other parents to find out what's going on, but they can share that information with you as well. And I think that just needs to happen. So hey, good luck, parents. Good luck, administrators. You know, us grandparents are in the background trying to help out as much as we can. So if you need us, call us and we'll do whatever we can do. That's all I can say, you know. So thank you again. And thank you people for joining in and watching today. And we'll talk another time.
Welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon.